Welcome to the Natural History Cupboard. Come on in.
And welcome back to the Natural History Cupboard podcast, the place where the weird and wonderful parts of the natural world come together. I'm your host, Gareth, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Aaron. Aaron, what have you been up to?
I've had an exciting week this week, actually, Gareth.
Good.
Yeah, so most relevant to this podcast is that me and my partner went paddleboarding around a bit of the North Devon coast.
Nice.
Got to see a lot of seabirds. There's one point where there must have been quite a strong undercurrent.
Yeah.
Because there's a massive white thing down there moving at speed, and
white thing.
Well, I thought it was like something like I don't know. You couldn't tell.
Russian beluga spy whale.
Well, not massive, but it was relatively big. White thing, massive to relatively big. It was a relatively big kind of white thing, and it was traveling at speed. Which my first thought was it's a jellyfish, but it can't. Jellyfish can't travel.
They just go with the current.
Exactly. Which is why I thought, me and Atta were talking. We're like, it's not moving like a jellyfish, but yeah, it turned out to be a jellyfish. There must have been a current underneath, because this was it must have been that big.
Big barrel jellyfish.
Yes, I think it was barrel jellyfish. And yeah, it just impressive.
Or it could have been a wild grockle. 'Tis that time of year where their migration brings these strange creatures to these areas.
Yeah.
For those of you who are unaware of what a grockle is, I would say go and look it up. They're an interesting species. Yeah.
Quite a common great ape.
Yeah.
Yeah. So paddleboarding was nice. Weather was nice. It was good. The other thing I've done, which isn't so relevant, is I went to watch the Thunderbolts.
Wow.
I have to say, I came out of that Captain America 4 thinking that was a good movie, but still kind of mid-tier for Marvel. Very happy with Thunderbolts. You almost forget how good Marvel has been because you come out of Captain America kind of thinking like that was good.
Right.
Then you come out of Thunderbolts thinking, oh no, that's what good. That's not to knock Captain America. I still think Captain America is good, but it's a good mid-tier Marvel movie. Whereas Thunderbolts is a very good film. Very happy with that film. It's not Winter Soldier or Civil War Ragnarok, but I mean they're way up there. But it is very good, very entertaining, very profound.
Well, there you go. There's Aaron's review for the week.
Here we are. Yeah.
So,
what about you?
The hedgehog was clearly back. I haven't seen it. Well, I think he had the squits. So there was a very, very runny poo outside the front door. So I'm hoping someone's not feeding him milk, which is not good for hedgehogs. This time of the year, water, best thing to have out for a hedgehog so that they can have a drink. But because the weather's been so hot, it's kind of baked the little patch of runny poo on the front path. So there's a little dark spot where he's gone. But sadly, up the road from us, there was a flat hedgehog, not close enough to us that it was most likely the one, that's done that. But it's sad to see that evidently it's this time of the year they're out and about looking for new territories and everything, and one or two of them have just not made it. So always be aware on the roads. They can be out there, and they're not doing as great, but they're doing better at least in urban areas, weirdly, than in countryside areas in their numbers. Apart from that, I just in the garden. It's been nice to just sit out in the garden and just sit. We've eaten outside almost every day this week, and it's just nice,
Fresh air, bird song, sunshine.
Yeah, and then just sort of poodle around the garden and water the plants and go from there. But no, I haven't really done much else this week. Actually, it's been. Oh, sorry, I went to Ilfracombe Aquarium. Actually, that is one thing I did do.
Completely a memorable experience.
Completely forgot. It's been a long week.
There's a good review. You guys over at Ilfracombe Aquarium.
Ilfracombe Aquarium is a fantastic little aquarium. and it's one of those aquariums that doesn't get enough recognition. It's a small one that's inside of the old lifeboat house in Ilfracombe. Now the new lifeboat house is around the corner, and it's all big and fancy and modern and everything. But this one is small, and it essentially is the perfect inspiration for anyone wanting to learn about the local area's fish, because the tanks start you off on the top of Exmoor and work your way down through the river systems, down to the estuary, and out to the sea, into the harbour, essentially. So you end up with all the deep water fish, but it's all in quite a small space as well. They've got a fantastic octopus at the moment. They've got sticklebacks and minnows and all those sort of freshwater species that you see further up, bream, skates, all those sort of things. I had quite a bit of fun just watching the hermit crabs in some of the tidal tanks as well. They were quite nice. It's a really nice aquarium. If you're in Ilfracombe, go and have a visit, because it's definitely worth it. It's down by the harbour. But should we head into the news?
Let's do it.
It's the news!
Right, well, we're into this week's news. I'm going to start things off with some good bad news, as I'm going to call it, from Our Blue Planet. Breaking news is that scientists are stunned by a new report confirming that 128 gigatons of ice has actually grown in Antarctica this year, between 2021 and 2024. However, don't get excited. That is not for the reason that all of a sudden we're gaining ice. It's essentially an anomaly, because between 2011 and 2020, Antarctica lost around 142 gigatons of ice per year, meaning that the current gain is likely just an anomaly, a bit of a blip in the sort of overall trend of things. So good and bad, I suppose.
I'll add this quickly because it's important. We spoke about this off camera. The reason for the increase in ice is because there was an increase in precipitation in Antarctica, and that is a really bad thing.
Yeah,
there shouldn't be any precipitation down there, at least not to such a substantial level. So the whole extra ice is, in this case, is bad news. My article comes to us from Euronews, and its headline is "Saved from Extinction, the Iberian Lynx now faces an uncertain future in Spain." They basically, the Iberian Lynx was saved by breeding programs, basically, and basically a bit of a campaign in the rural parts of Spain to get people on board. But now, once again, the cat is facing a hard time. Unfortunately, now it's facing new challenges. Farmers in Zamora, a region famous for its wolf population, do not welcome another predator, even though the lynx never kills livestock. And in Aragon, in eastern Spain, the Conservative People's Party rules in conjunction with the hard right Vox Party, which opposes the return of the lynx. Unfortunately, also because I have like a history of living in the area, farmers in Catalonia have staged a demonstration with their tractors in February and forced the Catalan regional government to drop plans to bring back the lynx. So this is just incredibly disappointing news coming out of Spain.
It is, yeah, definitely. So my next one comes to us from MSN, which has the interesting news that a new species of cat has been found in the Andes Mountains, which I know you'd quite like. It's actually the first new cat species discovered in the Americas in over 50 years. It's been named the rather, incredibly really sort of off the wall name of the Andean mountain cat, which
so it means it's from Brazil in the rainforest,
clearly. Leopardus andinus. So there you go, nice looking cat as well.
That was cool news. And my next article comes from BBC Newsround. The headline is "Elk could be back in the UK after 3,000 years," which is really exciting. So the animal, which is a keystone species, actually, has been extinct in the UK for, like I say, around 3,000 years. But now the Derbyshire Wildlife Trust is looking to introduce the species to two existing beaver enclosures
Wow.
in Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire. Now, I do hope that they will eventually, if they do go through with this, that they'll eventually be able to be free roaming, because the kind of only disappointing thing about the whole
It's the
voice
big
of the project
enclosures.
is that it's just big enclosures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
small
yeah,
steps.
interestingly, Newsround have chosen to show a picture of a wapiti instead of an elk,
Right.
because in America they call
Yeah. But Newsround's BBC.
yeah.
So somebody doesn't know the difference when they type in the
We'll
word
actually
elk into
use
Google
pictures of an elk and pictures of a wapiti, like
interchangeably. Oh,
interchangeably, which is funny.
BBC, if you're listening, come on, get your act together.
Proofread your article.
Yeah. Or just proofread Google when you type it into an image search, for God's sakes. So my next one's from The Guardian, and this is brilliant. I love this. It's foul play, flying duck, as opposed to walking duck, caught in Swiss speed trap, believed to be a repeat offender. This is the wonderful image that comes with it of a mallard snapped doing 52 kilometers an hour in a 30 kilometer an hour zone, as the duck is basically seen on the same day, 7 years apart.
Whoa.
So this duck has been caught twice by a speed trap, this same speed trap, twice.
I really hope it is genuinely the same duck.
Police in the town of Coins near Bern were astounded when they went through the radar images snapped on April 13th to discover a mallard was among those caught in the speed trap. The municipality said on their Facebook page at the weekend that the duck was caught doing 52 and a 30. I really hope they go to the local pond and just put like a fine, just float it out onto the water and go, pay that, please. But the worst thing about being a duck that's been caught speeding is you're always going to have a large bill in front of your face. Anyway.
Oh, that story's quackers.
Yeah.
The next bit of news is not so much from an article, though you'd be able to find in articles everywhere, I'm sure. But did you see there's a new trailer for the next Jurassic Park film?
Unfortunately.
Have you watched it?
Yeah.
It's got, again, Universal using these new movies to kind of put in scenes that are actually from the books, because I'm dead excited to see the Tyrannosaur in the water scene. That looks cool. But yeah, that's my third entry into the headlines. A new Jurassic World Rebirth trailer has landed, and it looks cool.
I'm less said about that. I think the better at the moment. Anyway, that is our news articles for this week. If you've got any that you want us to cover, send them in to us, and you might see them in our articles or as the main feature, which I have got a brilliant one this week, which follows on from the Chough creature feature from last week. It was almost as if it was written just for me. And this is from BBC News, and it's wild choughs spotted in Kent after 2 centuries. So you may have heard when we were doing the creature feature that obviously choughs are mostly known down the west coast of Britain, but for the first time in 2 centuries. So a project between the Wildwood Trust, Kent Wildlife Trust, and Paradise Park has seen captive bred birds released near Dover in 2023. Now, some of these birds have been spotted now flying around Ramsgate, Margate, and Broadstairs, which is fantastic news. It means that these birds are slowly starting to establish in these areas and basically make a home for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's a really good sign for choughs in England and for the UK in general. So you never know. We may see them making a bigger return over the coming years as they start to make the same sort of return that the red kite did, for instance.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, because I'd love to see more of them. And yeah, I just think they should be as common as their namesake, the jackdaw. They should be as common as the other version of the chough from the Middle Ages. So, yeah, well, there you go. Short one, but a good one. And I think, let's head into our creature feature for this week, shall we?
Let's do it.
Because you got some things to say.
I think I've got a lot to get off my chest.
It's the creature feature.
Okay, well, we're into this week's creature feature. And Aaron, this is one I know that you've been dreading, but also loving the thought of doing at some point. So take it away. What have you got for us?
It has taken, what, 4 seasons to get here?
Yeah, you've been this is your Spinosaurus.
Yeah, it is the Spinosaurus. And in much the same way as you with the Spinosaurus, me and this species, as you say, yeah, 50% dread, 50% really would like to. It's going to be a tricky one. Unfortunately, Drew was going to join us for this one. It was one of those special ones that we all have a bit of a connection to and a bit of history with. So, but through unforeseen circumstances, he can't be in the cupboard this week. So, we'll do our best to crack through this. But I think just right off the bat, Gareth, I think we should lay our cards on the table. This creature feature is going to be a controversial one.
I don't think it should be, but fair enough.
To our listeners, I hope it's not.
Yeah.
But there are still some people involved in this animal who would find this probably a little offensive. And there are certainly people who are not involved with the animal but make mention of it plenty of times for whatever reason, who are also going to find this a wee bit offensive. Well, there are some people that genuinely love this animal that might find this offensive too.
Life is nothing but offence.
It is not my intention to offend anyone, though. It is my intention to tell you guys the truth. And sometimes the truth is hard to swallow. So we may as well go through a little bit of a list here. The types of person who might find this controversial, just to give you guys a trigger warning in case you are sensitive. We're talking about hunters or poachers, farmers, spirit of the wild hippies, owners of shoddy roadside captive animal collections that are an embarrassment to good zoos, people of specific religious sensibilities, and of course, alpha males.
Well, I mean, that is quite clearly our entire audience demographic, especially the alpha male chats. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, we have a lot of alpha male.
Yeah,
chats.
oh, definitely. Yeah.
We are alpha male chats.
Yeah.
But I dedicate this to the 25 to 30 captive grey wolves that between the three of us, that is the two sitting here and Drew currently enjoying himself. I can't remember what he was doing now.
He's off to see Simon Reed.
That's it, yeah. Between the three of us, that's probably a rough estimate of the wolves that we've worked with.
I mean, do you count dingoes?
Do you know what? Yes, I would count dingoes.
Oh, then you got.
No, I won't, because then I have to count domestic dogs that I've worked with.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
Strictly speaking, either grey wolves or the subspecies of grey wolves.
Right.
That
Okay.
you can find around the world. I also obviously dedicate this to the wild ones suffering such unjust and despicable persecution. And lastly, for the sake of full transparency, the majority of the wolves we worked with were under the shadow of what I would refer to as toxic wolf management. In fact, I can only name 7 wolves that were at the time I personally was working with them not under the influence of such malpractice. So to Morena, Maria, Naruk, Nesty, Toto, Alu, and Carlos, I give this entry into the creature feature roster as a thank you for showing me how wolves actually should behave. Anyway, Eurasian grey wolves, here we go. The wolf is a unique animal in the human subconscious for many reasons, but chiefest among these are the following 2 statements. Number 1, no animal is so thoroughly studied but remains so catastrophically misunderstood. And number 2, no other animal is as imperiled by its fans as it is by its haters. Indeed, both the people that hate wolves the most and the people who think they love wolves the most are equally dangerous for the survival of this species because they both peddle propaganda and myth. And if lies do anything to wolves, it's always to the wolf's detriment.
Yeah.
Barely have we opened this segment and already shots are firing, but I do struggle with talking about wolves, and my partner will back me up on this, and so will you, I think, because I opened up to Atta about how I was feeling with this creature feature. They may not be my absolute favourite species, certainly top 5 most days if you ask me, but they are an extremely emotionally charged species for me, probably more so than tigers, which are my favourite. Whilst I'm very passionate about the welfare of both species, with wolves, I have experienced firsthand the results of their constant mismanagement to dire and painful ends. Whereas tigers, on the other hand, I'm quite spoiled. I've actually experienced arguably the best at all times in terms of captive management.
Hmm.
I promise it's not all doom and gloom, though. I have formed way more happy and positive memories with wolves than I have negative. It's just it's difficult to see that sometimes when I'm trying to write about them and their relationship to humanity and the world around them. Now, you all know what wolves look like. It's basically a large dog reaching up to 96 kilograms or 212 pounds in weight, lengths of up to 160 centimeters or 63 inches if you're across the pond, and a height of 85 centimeters. And again, for you guys across the pond, that's about 33 inches to the shoulder, that is. They have a narrower face with less hair behind the cheeks and a gradually tapering muzzle compared to their American grey counterparts. Sorry, that was a really bad.
That was,
That was
yeah.
a really bad American accent. Again, not meaning to cause any offense. They also display longer ears that are positioned higher up the skulls than the Americans, with longer legs, smaller feet, and a less densely coated tail. But one trait that they do share with the American grey wolves or timber wolves is their beautifully varied coat colorations. You get that mottled mixture of the greys, whites, creams, browns, reds, and those flecks of black in different ratios, unique to the individual. They are an absolutely stunning animal, the absolute peak of canines, I think. Now, depending on the day, I might actually say that painted dogs may equal that, but wolves just about win out for me on account of their habitat preference, and that I should, in all fairness, be sharing my country with them.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Painted wolves, obviously, specifically from Africa, or painted dogs, or hunting dogs, whatever you want to call them, specifically from Africa, is a little bit further remote. Whereas we
Yeah,
should
we don't tend to see too many of them roaming North Devon.
No. Like I said, we all know a wolf when we see one. But what you may not know is how fond we were of them historically. And I can forgive you for this oversight on account of how well humans have poisoned their image in our kind of modern subconscious. Once upon a time, in a world not too dissimilar to ours, the wolf was largely loved, and at worst, it was admired. Obviously, there would have been that natural predator fear
Yeah.
of them, but that is very surface level, not like the hatred we have of them today, apparently. Long before the propaganda peddling monotheistic cultures held sway, the wolf was admittedly not always, but by far mostly, revered across Europe. According to the Baltic peoples, a wolf made of iron was observed howling on a hill by Gediminas, inspiring him to found the Lithuanian capital of Vilnius on that site. In fact, their goddess of wildlife, Medina, is herself a she-wolf who is often depicted with a pack of wolves in tow. The Chechenian peoples have a proverb that compares them with the three wolves. Their founding myth is actually that their people were born of a she-wolf. The country of Georgia, do you know what the name Georgia means?
I'm going to take a guess. Wolf.
Pretty much. It actually owes its name to a corruption of what the Persians once called them, and it translates roughly to land of the wolves. There's also, obviously, there's more than a few stories originating from Greece. But one of my favorites is actually when King Lycaon of Arcadia killed his son Nyctimus. I don't have time to kind of recount the story in its fullest.
Lycaon would be wolf, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
The creature feature doesn't have scope for us to go into too much detail, but it's a good one. So look it up if that's what you're into. It's actually a contender for the earliest werewolf story, though some argue that that's actually a entry in the Babylonian legend of Gilgamesh.
Oh, why can't I remember what that one's called? I do know what that story was called, but
if I remember correctly, he rejects the advances of a goddess who is a wolf because no he rejects the advances of a goddess because she turned her ex-lover into a wolf or something like that.
I mean, as you do.
Yeah. There's also an interesting Iranian paradox where Zoroaster as a child is taken to a she-wolf who accepts him as her own. But wolves are considered a dark and cruel creature, so the myth can't actually have him suckle from her. So instead, a ewe sheep is brought in to accompany the wolf to feed the child. In another story, an orphan princeling is saved and suckled by a wolf. A raven then starts him on solids by bringing in meat to wherever the wolf.
It's like a weird version of the Jungle Book.
In Japan, Raiju, that's Raiju, not Raichu, is a Shinto nature deity in wolf form who's actually got a little similarity with Raichu in that he's pretty chilled out, but causes thunder and lightning by bouncing off of stuff when he's annoyed. Yeah. The Ainu people believe that they were born of a wolf and a god. In other areas of Japan, wolves are honored with shrines of worship. Prayers to the wolf and offerings at dens were undertaken to ask for crop protection against ungulate plant eaters. So this is people.
I don't think. Are there any wolves left in Japan? I don't think so.
Don't think so. No, this is historic.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that they are praying and making sacrifices to the wolves.
Save us! The deer are coming for us.
Exactly. It's almost the complete opposite of
what you get today.
Here. Yeah. Mongol peoples, again, they believe that they descended from wolves. In fact, they believe that one parent was a wolf, the other parent was a deer.
Interesting relationship.
As even today, because of this, the wolf is seen as a good omen or a good luck symbol.
In which, I mean, I'm probably derailing here, but why do the Mongols then hunt wolves with golden eagles?
I'm not sure.
A historical thing, I'm guessing.
This is historical, although it is historical. But even today, as I say, they're still seen as a good luck symbol. So yeah, but I don't know. No, I don't know why they hunt them. Maybe it's a coming of age thing or a ritualistic thing. I don't know. And everyone knows, of course, the most obvious one from Eurasia.
Not in my mind, but
really, okay, fair enough. But this is the Norse story of Fenrisulfur, Loki's son, which actually means Fenris Wolf, son of Loki, who took Tyr, the war god's arm, killed Odin, and basically ended the Norse world during Ragnarok. He also sired Skoll and Hati, who are the wolves that chase the sun and moon, respectively. And actually, if you're not into Norse mythology, those two names should mean something to you if you are a Star Wars fan, because they are the not quite Sith Dark Jedi, Balon Skoll and his apprentice Shin Hati, who I think are two of the very most interesting characters that have been introduced in recent years. Not the most, but of them. And then, of course, there's Freki and Geri, Odin's good boy wolves, whose names mean the greedy one and the starving one.
Now, this is the one that I think of when I think of a European wolf story. Is of course Romulus and Remus.
Funnily enough, that's from Italy, the Romans. You got Romulus and Remus, brothers raised by a she-wolf. Romulus betrays and murders his brother, founds the city of Rome, yada yada yada. Ancient Greece was better. Moving on.
Wow. I'll take that. I mean, so you can add that to the list of people who also get offended.
Yeah,
Ancient Romans.
Caesar's turning in his grave.
Which one?
Take your pick. And there are so many others from across Eurasia that I don't have the time to list, but portray wolves in equally high esteem. And these beliefs are similarly held by First Nations of the American continents, for whom wolves play a pivotal role in many creation and foundation legends. But for this week, we're focusing solely on the Eurasian grey wolf. Unfortunately, that mythic reputation just doesn't do the animal justice today. Take, for example, this Spirit of the Wolf or Free Wolf Moon cult that we mentioned a few weeks back.
Which, some brilliant ideas, I might add.
I'm looking forward to going through them. We had a few, didn't we?
And you even made one, which I think we'll show in that part.
I will put it up, yeah. So this Free Wolf Moon thing, it all started as an attempt to make a nice T-shirt, as far as I can surmise. It's almost a watercolor. Better T-shirts available, definitely. It's essentially I don't know if it is watercolored originally, but it looks like a watercolored image of three wolves howling at a full moon to evoke the beauty of nature in the mind of an artist. What it's become is a cult of hippies who come along to wolf talks wherever they are being held, apparently particularly by me, and try to tell science-based zookeepers like me about how their soul animal is a wolf and how eye contact with the wolf connects you to them and how the full moon affects them, as in the person that's talking to me, not the wolves. You've probably met similar people who collect silly stones as if they're Thanos completing an oversized gauntlet. And I don't mean to offend people who like the animals or stones or
Like
even
collecting
moons.
stones.
I like collecting them, but I don't talk about chakras or try clicking people out
Oh,
of
no.
existence. But yeah, I don't mean to cause offense to those kind of people, especially when, excuse me, these people are in love with animals that are as hated and feared and scapegoated as wolves are. But there's only so many hundreds of times I can hear someone claim that they hold the power of the wolf because the one because the alpha, and we'll circle back to that, looked at them. There's nothing offensive on the shirt, in my opinion. I don't like them; it's not for me. But there's not actually anything offensive about the shirt. And on the bright side, to be honest, the shirt has given rise to some genius online fake reviews, as well as some plentiful memes that just have you laughing for hours.
Here for those.
Yeah, the ingredient that I find so egregious is the pseudoscience that people wearing these shirts often come along with. Attributing magic to these animals is exactly what the Abrahamic monotheists did, and that led to the species, or it basically led to wolves meeting their near doom. But their current and perpetual status quo, floating around, do we go extinct today, or will we survive one more night? Is it drives me absolutely nuts that people don't see how damaging this is. On top of this, in an age where science is constantly fighting fake news and pseudoscience, polluting wolf science with this nonsense for less scientifically literate learners to consume is also muddying the waters of global wolf appreciation. So if this is you, please stop, which I've written in capital letters in my notes. I mentioned hunting a bit, so let's take a look at that and give the hippies a break.
Moving on to the next lot.
Tick. The current distrust, dislike, fearfulness, and hatred of wolves pretty much stems from two fraternities: the monotheistic cultures and the farming communities. So, first of all, the agriculture community. They came with fire, they came with axes, gnawing, biting, breaking, hacking, burning, destroyers and usurpers, curse them. Across Europe, across Europe, the agriculturally led decline and eventual localized extinction and regional extinctions of prey species such as elk is what forced wolves onto livestock in the first place. In fact, there's pretty strong evidence that prey such as agricultural livestock probably wasn't often taken by wolves originally when their prey was plentiful. Farmers undertook revenge killings, and worse than that, they undertook preemptive strikes upon wolf kind, and wolf killing became organized around the Middle Ages. And in fact, it became enshrined in legislation in certain countries like England, of course, when it became harder to hunt wolves because you wipe them out due to rapid population declines. They burned down the forest and the woodlands because how dare anything have the absolute cheek to try and live here. In the UK, a tiny spit of land in the grand scheme of things, the damage was so immense, and without human intervention in the future, this damage is completely irreversible. The last wolf in Wales was likely betrayed by the end of the 1200s.
Do you know where that was?
I had it. No, I can't think of it.
Blythe Coed,
Yes,
which means the wolf wood.
Yeah, that's it. And there's another place near that called I don't know why I brought that up.
It's basically
another
no. It's basically a forest in North Wales where the last one was hunted. I believe there's a giant like wicker wolf there now.
Really?
Yeah.
I might go and see if I can see that. But yeah, that one was the 1200s, though some people point to the 1500s. The last wolf recorded in England was murdered in the 1400s. The last wolf recorded in Scotland, slain in 1684. And the last wolf recorded in Ireland was assassinated in 1786. And here the UK stands. Whilst the rest of Europe tries to figure out what human-wolf peacetime looks like, we remain completely wolfless and in an ecological nosedive ever since. And before I get angry Brits telling me about some political parties in Europe turning on the wolf, yes, that's bad and it needs to be curbed, but the countries these parties are based in are still actively trying for the most part. No one expects us to go perfectly. I don't expect this to go perfectly. There will be conflicts, there will be teething issues, but my axe to grind upon Britain is that we aren't even trying, and probably, despite bloody good scientific cause, never will even entertain the thought, much less consider it. And that, my friends, is an affront. Now, in terms of religion, because you guys aren't going to get away from this without getting scathing too, it's nearly entirely the Abrahamic religions that are to blame. The Muslims speak of wolves 3 times in the Quran, each time as basically greedy predators to be feared. The Christians make no less than 13 references to wolves in the Bible because they really hate them, and they hate them with a passion. And each one of these references paints the wolves as a destructive, evil, villainous, greedy, murderous creature. They also paint wolves as metaphors for Satan, bad people, and they're even used by the all-loving Jesus to warn against lies and fraudsters. And now the Jews, you're not going to get away from this either. Historically, the Jews have referred to wolves as ravenous beasts that will destroy livestock and people alike. That being said, in the last century or so, the Jewish people have started to liken their persecution to that of the Eurasian wolf population. It is because of these 3 pop religions that wolves have entered into the plots of and the narratives of nursery stories and fantasies, often in a bad way. 3 Little Piggies, Red Riding Hood. And if I can ask Gareth and Drew to cover their ears, Drew's not here. Drew, when you're listening to this, cover your ears, because it hurts me to say this, and I don't wish to cause you guys the same pain. If my brother is listening, Kelsey, you need to shut your ears too. J.R.R. Tolkien, as great an author as he was, as awesome as his Middle-earth legendarium is, whilst men and elves ride noble horse steeds across the fields, the orcs are mounted upon what? Wolves. In some parts of the legendarium, he does actually, I will give him credit here, he does differentiate between nature's wolves and the wolves known as wargs, but not clearly enough. If you just read The Hobbit, you wouldn't know the difference. The message is still big bad wolf, at least, and this hurts.
No, you can't say that about.
I'm about to make it worse,
but I'm going to have to defend the warg here. I think they are one of the best steeds in Tolkien.
I love wargs. I love wargs, but you
I
cannot
love them.
deny
They look more hyena-like in Two Towers. I will say that the ones in the Hobbit film actually look like big wolves, but I don't know.
No, if you're gonna go at the Brothers Grimm and the religions,
the whole thing is
paint them as evil. You can't let J.R. Tolkien get away
evil
with it.
corrupts birds and beasts. So crows get a bad rap in that as well.
They do, but still, there isn't many animals in Tolkien that get bad press than wolves. Even the
elephants of Gorgoroth.
Even the elephants are only mentioned briefly compared to the number of entries where wolves are evil.
I mean, one of my favorite bits of random Tolkien lore is to do with the fall of Arnor. And there's a great winter that the Witch King of Angmar brings on to basically freeze everyone out. And the lands that are the Shire, or will become the Shire, where the original sort of hobbits are living, they have white wolves descend from the far north, and they fight them off. And I know that
some zoo people out of there.
I know you may hate that, but I absolutely loved that bit. And I spent ages, because I used to spend an awful lot of money on what is essentially crack cocaine for nerds, otherwise known as Games Workshop, on the Lord of the Rings figurine. So I had a small hobbit army and loads of white wargs that I painted specifically. I still got them somewhere.
That's really cool. I didn't know you had those.
But I all of mine were painted white, not because they were like, oh my God, the white wolves, they're so much more amazing.
They're not going to paint white.
No, in which case they would have been grey, because grey is the plastic colour. But I went for that because I specifically loved that random bit from one bit of the legendarium. But it hurts to hear you say that.
It pains me to say it because J.R.R. Tolkien is my favourite author. I love the Silmarillion. I love the Lord of the Rings. I love the Hobbit. I love the one that I really want to read that I've not read is Farmer Giles of Ham.
Yeah.
I really want to read that one. It's not related to the it's not related
Lord of the Rings
to the
as
Lord of
such.
the Rings kind of thing. It's kind of adjacent, but I love Tolkien's work. I even like reading the letters that he wrote to publishers. There's a couple of letters to the church. There's a couple of
Mm.
letters to his kids. I just think they're great. He is just a great writer. So it pains me to say it, but what it hurts me more to say this. At least George R. R. Martin ennobled the wolf by pairing it with the Honorable House Stark. When I say this, I like Tolkien's work way more than Martin's. Isn't even on the same
Page, bookshelf,
so
bookshop.
Tolkien is far superior.
Oh, damn straight.
But it is the truth that he paints wolves in a far better light. So yeah, that is what it is. But yeah, there we go.
I'm a little hurt. But yeah, no, I can go with it. I can go with it.
You can see where I'm coming from, though, at least.
Yes,
Yeah, because I'm not saying that.
because spiders get a bad rap in that as well.
Yes, they do. They do. They get in.
But they are
awful.
corrupted by the Dark Lord Morgoth.
Is it spiders though, or is it that Ungoliant is actually just because Ungoliant is
The
a
spawn
spider
of Ungoliant. Yeah,
Ungoliant is a Maiar, the same as Gandalf and Sauron.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
I suppose you could argue that point that she takes the form of a spider.
She chooses to be a spider. Sauron chooses to be.
He actually takes the form of a wolf at one point.
He does. He's a werewolf at one point.
Mhm.
Yes, and he fights.
And in fact, one of the greatest wolves, one of the greatest wolves in Tolkien. This is going to be like Tolkien and his version of wolves now. Is Grond,
Grond, yes.
the Warhammer Grond, named after a giant wolf that Morgoth used in the First Age. So there you go. I mean, wolves aren't that. I'm I'm bringing them back up. They may be bad, but they're bad.
Something else that I'll say about another fictional, and this will be a very, very quick thing. It's not even in my notes, but just to show that wolves in like they don't have to be. They can be avatars of good things.
Hmm.
Marvel, they took a villain, the Winter Soldier. This you won't notice if you only follow the MCU. I think it might have been mentioned once in an after credit scene, but if you follow the MCU, you won't notice. In the comics, they took a villain, the Winter Soldier,
Yeah,
and they restored his heroism, and he became the White Wolf,
yeah.
who was kind of partnered up with the Black Panther. So yeah. Anyway, let's actually talk about wolves a bit. Let's talk about actual wolves a bit. Why are they genuinely important? Let us first do away with this alpha wolf nonsense. Wolves are tight-knit family animals, despite what you may have heard, or worse, what you may have been actively told by people in positions of educational authority, like, I don't know, outdated wolf management at subpar roadside collections that are an affront to good functional zoos. Wolves are not ranked in order of dominance. Their packs form nuclear families. They are no more complex nor no more simple than your family. It all starts with a maturing 2 to 3 year old male exploring further and further from his pack's territory. Occasionally, he'll be entering the territory of neighboring packs, keeping a low profile. He may take a liking to a maturing 2 to 3 year old female there. They'll steal secret moments until inevitably the game is up and they're caught in the act and exiled by mum and dad. Now, monogamous, this pair will then seal their bond for life, forming a new pack, looking for territory. And a pack is literally just a pair. Mum and dad, they will become. Upon establishing a decent territory with plentiful resources, south-facing dens will be constructed out of natural shelters or by squatting and renovating a smaller mammal's burrow. Usually no more than half a kilometre from water. The summer is then spent preparing the dens for cubbing. The two will likely mate in the second half of winter, after which the female will retire to one of the dens in the territory interior, and the pack will experience their first successful litter roughly around 70 days later in the spring. As a first-time pairing, the female will likely give birth to 4 pups, but as she breeds each year, that number could increase to litters of up to 8 pups. They're born completely useless and weighing around half a bag of sugar, and they are completely dependent on their parents. And later on, their later kind of litters will be dependent on parents and their older siblings. They can reliably identify and hide from danger between a month and 2 months of age, but by autumn, they'll be hunting smaller prey at night with the pack. During daytime hunts, however, they'll be looking to isolate weaker individuals, as in the pack, will be looking to isolate weaker individuals from herds of wisent, elk, red deer, and similar sized prey. So pretty big
animals,
things.
yeah.
They achieve this feat by chasing over long distances, wearing down their prey's energy and physically draining them by constantly nipping at the rear limbs and the rump. Now, once down, not the throat, the wolf will deliver a fatal bite to the throat, or allow blood loss to expire the animal whilst they rest nearby. The parents will always dine first, securing the larger vital organs to replenish the energy that they need, so they can hunt more and feed the litters of cubs. But the pack can be sustained for days, gorge feeding on such large kills, like bringing down Wyson. Or for you guys in America, again, this is going to be very biased towards Eurasian grey wolves, but your bison over there. All it takes is just shy of about 20% of the body weight of each individual in the pack, and that's the pack done for a while.
And just like a domestic dog as well. These guys will stuff their faces.
They absolutely will.
Like a domestic dog. If you've got a pet dog, you will know how much it can stuff its face, especially if you've got something like a Labrador.
Yeah.
These guys can do the same.
Liken it to a Hoover.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Now, obviously, I'm not going to go into too much detail over this, but they're not obligate carnivores. They will go and they'll eat berries and roots and stuff too. So yeah, they are adaptable. I'm just talking specifically about how they hunt. Now, I mentioned in there that the pups rely on their parents and elder siblings, and this is where the alpha wolf nonsense usually rears its head. In the 1930s and 40s, researcher Rudolf Schenkel studied captive wolf packs. Now, interestingly, I think Rudolf, the name, I didn't look this up. This is some random bit of information that's in my head. So you can either fact check me or our friends listening can fact check me. But I think Rudolf, part of the etymology of that name comes from wolf or something to do with wolf.
Fair enough.
But yeah, researcher Rudolf Schenkel studied captive wolf packs in Germany, and obviously in Nazi Germany. These weren't the types of captive wolf pack you'd hope to see today, where a male and female have been carefully and deliberately selected to be paired up and bred from, creating a natural pack or a more natural pack for captivity. No, back in those days, the conditions this would have been in would basically have been a group of strangers chucked into an enclosure together, and you hope for the best. Very much like shoving a bunch of strange people into an elevator and chucking a donut in there and saying, you guys work it out. Schenkel observed that over time, a pecking order is sorted out. Again, much like shoving a load of people into an elevator to fight over a donut. And eventually one wolf dominates over the others, each of whom form an orderly hierarchy behind them. Now, this is just not the case in real life. After Schenkel's findings, his alpha wolf theory was popularized by wolf researcher David Meach in the 1960s. Meach's work was published in 1970, almost 40 years after Schenkel's observations and theory. It then took a further 52 years for Meach himself to convince publishers to take his work out of print. So the guy that popularized the alpha wolf theory, the alpha male theory in wolves, spent 52 years trying to stop the publishers from printing that work because he'd worked out it was wrong. Basically, Meach had gone back. He'd researched wolves in the wild. He'd researched wolves in more modern, more appropriate captive zoological collections. And as Meach said, he couldn't get them to stop. I think he's quoted as saying something like, the notion of alpha male was far too useful to people.
Yeah.
And you see it today. It's useful as a way of excusing domineering over others in what I would suggest, with no human psychology kind of uh, certification or qualification to back me up here, but I would say borderline abusive
Yeah.
human relationships. The reason why Meach fought for more than 50 years to end the alpha wolf theory he'd popularized is quite simply because more research came to light of, like I said, his observations of wild wolves, his observations of wolves in good functional zoos, and the results of such studies basically showed beyond any shadow of a doubt that these were not dominance and hierarchy based creatures, but family oriented and strong family orientated. In larger packs, the ones eaten first are not the alpha male, his mate, and their pups. It's mum and dad, and they ensure the pups, who can't hunt for themselves, take first dibs on the carcass before the older siblings, who can go and make a quick catch elsewhere, settle down to eat. The social structure is not a bunch of submissive, lower ranking wolves doing the grunt work. It's older pups being given more and more responsibility as the years go on, for the dual purposes of setting them up for success as adults and raising their own pups, and quite simply to give their parents a hand. So again, if this is nonsense that you actively spread as fact, just stop. You're not just wrong, you're nearly 100 years of wrong. You couldn't be more out of date if you tried.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there is the one thing that I think is worth bringing up at this point.
Go on.
The one photo that proves the alpha wolf thing is 100% true.
I think I know what it's
I can't believe you haven't mentioned this. The bastion of truth and knowledge in the world, Facebook.
Yes.
Where everyone is a scientist, everyone knows exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
That absolutely wonderful picture of, what is it? A wolf pack traveling
through the snow.
I can never remember the order that they give for who goes where. And
yeah, there's
the
elderly at the front.
They set the pace.
God, just talking about that picture annoys the just annoys the.
You used to use that in your talk. We all used to use that in
I
the
had a
wolf
laminated
talk.
picture of it to. Oh goodness grief! I bet you we've not even described the photo like in much detail, and I bet you I reckon there'd probably be about 60% of our
would know exactly what it is.
They would have seen it.
Well, I think you'll have to put it up.
I will put it up, and I will. I will put it up.
You'll have to look through the most pseudo-scientific parts of Facebook to find it.
Facebook, yeah. Oh dear. Anyway, back to wolves. They are a keystone species, having a far larger ecological impact than any one species has any business of having. They don't merely hunt prey, whereby keeping population numbers down to prevent overgrazing, but unlike deer hunters, or rather deer hunting toffs on horseback, dressed in their Sunday best, the wolves keep the deer constantly moving. This is something that human hunting cannot replicate. Given a near migration-like structure to the movement of these prey species through their range is basically what gives plant life the time that's necessary for them to heal and regrow from browsing, overgrazing. That has its knock-on effects. The impacts of having healthier plant life in the area is less wind erosion, water course direction maintains the stable route it should take. Bank erosion in the soil is stopped because of stronger root structures. It provides homes and shelters for birds and invertebrate life, as well as myriad mammal and reptile species too. The increase in this smaller sized biodiversity, like your insects, like your smallest insects, up to kind of like your small birds and such, that actively attracts larger sized biodiversity. So now we're talking about things like foxes and such, and badgers and hedgehogs. We also see healthier watercourse systems, be they river or stream, attracting amphibians, fish, and aquatic mammals like otters and beavers back to regions where wolves thrive. This chain reaction is known as a trophic cascade, and all of this is far better documented in studies of wolves elsewhere. In fact, Yellowstone being one such well-known example, and you can check that one out on YouTube rather than listen to me go over it again. So the benefits on the environment cannot be understated. The lack of wolves is directly and indirectly connected to many of the ecological issues we face in Britain today. But if it's such an easy fix, why don't we just reintroduce the wolves? Well, while some farmers are slowly coming around to the idea of a wilder Britain being a greater Britain, if you will, the NFU is still pushing their anti-wildlife agenda and refusing to take my advice of STFU. Every time anything remotely associated with rewilding is considered, and I don't mean wolves, I mean like rewilding with a tree,
Oh,
for
yeah.
example.
Dangerous trees.
In wades the NFU with their ready-baked list of nonsense and lies that are demonstrably false or exaggerated, but are difficult to combat because theirs is a game of playing on people's fears. And as the German proverb says, fear makes the wolf look bigger than he is.
Or fear is the path to the dark side.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to wolves suffering.
Yeah.
Germans, by the way, who can coexist with wolves. So I think we should probably listen to their proverb on this one.
Yeah.
I mean, not perfectly, I will stress, but we've reported on several imperfections and worrying trends and things to monitor in Germany moving forward with their wolves. But they're better than us, that's for sure. But in the spirit of spreading truth, let me be real with you all. Livestock predation by wolves can still be a very real thing. It's not something to be ignored or shrugged off or laughed off or whatever. We need to take that seriously if we want to have wolves back in this world with us. In today's world, there's probably little we can do to fully 100% eliminate this, but the answer to the problem is not avenge killing or preemptive strikes, but instead to try and avoid stock being killed as best we can in the first place and to compensate as best as possible in the second unfortunate place. This is done with predators worldwide to great success, including tigers, which are far more lethal than wolves will ever dream of being. To achieve such mitigation of loss, farmers and ranchers around the world have been trialing things like training predator-appropriate guard dogs. You can't just stick a guard dog in a field and expect it to defend against wolves. You have to pick the right tigers or lions.
We bred specific breeds of dog to do exactly this.
Exactly, yes. And teaming them up potentially with things like alpacas is a good start. Also employing night shift staff to maintain human activity levels in the area. So maybe like a team that goes out sporadically on patrol just to keep movement going. Using automated light systems to eliminate cover and also because it spooks them because they think that there's something going on. Motion detecting buzzers as spooking devices are another effective thing that's employed elsewhere. Also, and this is really simple, and this kind of shows just how simple it is to kind of coexist with wolves. Strips of fabric that are attached to the fence line, and as they blow in the wind, they make this clapping and flapping noise.
Yeah.
And that has been enough to keep wolves off of land. And dare I say, whilst we're talking about fence lines, better perimeter fencing.
Well, yeah.
But it's not all on the farmer, as much as I like to blame them for the fact that that wolves aren't here. It's not just their responsibility to make this happen. This is a community issue, and we should all front the responsibility for it. Government compensation programs for stock that was demonstrably killed by wolves is an absolute must. They have it in other places for tigers. You can do it here for wolves. It should be monitored on these other regions. It's not just tigers over there. Like I say, it's lions, and in fact, it's wolves in other countries.
Yeah.
Conservation-led wolf monitoring programs need instigating. The wolves must be tracked and data collected 24/7. Wolf education and outreach projects started up to teach the public and local communities about their new neighbours, and public acceptance of culling as a control measure that needs to be achieved too, because the public, if something is culled, we tend to have a bit of an outcry about that, but we need to accept that as a management policy, especially with wolves. If an ill, injured, or elderly wolf is about to become a problem for farmers, we need to weigh up the benefits of, is it worth? This is awful. This is an awful thing to say, but
they do the exact same thing with crocodiles in Australia.
Yeah, it's the only way that this is going to work is you weigh up, is it financially responsible? Will it have an impact ecologically if we medicate the wolf?
Yeah.
or euthanize it.
Exactly.
And we need to be happy with whatever outcome that has. Now, this role must be held by someone who is on the side of cold science, not a farmer or a wolf hugger. Someone who is going to look at the facts and act on the facts, not on their bias. For wolves to return, the wolves themselves, the farmers trying to feed a nation, and the public all need the protection of law. Of course, this is the UK, so despite it being absolutely necessary and absolutely workable, it's never going to be properly considered, much less actually done. So it's kind of a moot point, but worth mentioning, I suppose. On the subject of wolf reintroduction, you'll often hear from mostly biased parties, but not always, the misinformation that there's just too many people in Britain and not enough space. There are demonstrably several countries in Europe with less space than Britain, higher human population densities than Britain, and they are coexisting with their wolves perfectly fine. And with that, a note of hope, I guess. Across Europe, traditional grazing practices for sheep and cattle started a notable decline by the end of the 50s. The change, supplemented by the decrease in importance of religion and increase in interest in science, has meant declining further for wolf and prey persecution, just about anyway. Isolated and fragmented populations of wolves and their prey have begun expanding into former territory. And from the late 70s to today, more and more European countries are at first reporting sightings of the odd wolf here and there, and then enjoying the presence of growing packs. Protections have started to become commonplace. That goes for farmers too, with regions helping both sides avoid and mitigate conflict. And that is how we are going to, if it was going to happen, that is how we would make it happen. Nowadays, the species falls into the annexes of both the EU Habitats Directive and the Berne Convention. Now, of course, the EU Habitats Directive, well, I don't know, since Keir Starmer's made some changes, but thanks to the Conservatives, that probably doesn't do much for us. Both of these protections are pretty much responsible for providing the legal protection for wolves across Europe. And long may this trend continue for people, for wolves, and for our shared home. Wolves, though criminally misunderstood, perhaps deliberately so, are wonderful, awe-inspiring creatures who deserve our respect and their space. If Britain never again hosts wolves, if Europe turns against its wolves once more, and if Trump and his cretinous followers have their way with American grey wolves, well, once again, I'm going to quote one of my favourite Tolkien characters. There will be no curse in Elvish, Entish, or the tons of men for that treachery. But it is my hope, upon seeing cathedrals getting more involved in raptor well-being and farmers encouraging beavers and white-tailed eagles onto their lands, that maybe we could just about avert this crisis, and maybe our shared future holds an as yet unforeseen catastrophe. Again, to quote Tolkien. But that is, in not so much a nutshell, that is 4 seasons of me working out what I want to say about wolves and how to best not to miss things out. So yeah, that's for now. That's the
I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
I will probably put out an Iberian or an American grey wolf thing for our Patreon followers only at one point.
There we go.
But that won't be for a few months. But yeah.
Fair enough. Right, well, let's move into our email, shall we?
Let's do it.
Bing! You've got mail. Ooh, it's an email.
Right, well, we're into our emails for this week. And, well, we're going to start things off with the question from last week, which was, what animal would you want on your family crest? Now, starting off, Christopher Axon said, I want a caracara terrorizing picnickers and stealing their food while humans run away. Or a de-extincted Colombian mammoth standing on a flipped-over Jeep. Brilliant. Love it. No notes.
No. Perfect. Jan Ashbridge has said, goldfinch, long-tailed tit, greenfinch, nuthatch. Lovely visitors to the bird feeders in the garden.
Yeah, okay. Sort of around...
Would you have your
the bird feeder on there, or
in the shape of a bird feeder then?
Yeah, I was picturing the bird feeder on the shield. So Jen Babs has said orca to keep them sweet for when they inevitably take over the world. But she's also included, I know, brown hare, barn owl, roe deer, and a curlew on a quartered design, as they're my favourite sightings where we live. That's not bad.
Yeah, they're good. They're good. I like the orca bit.
I, for one, welcome our orca overlords and
Pete Watts has said animal from the Muppets would suit us. Pretty
I
much
like-
knows anyone who knows any of us probably agrees.
Animal. And Spencer seems to said, I think I have to pick the black bear.
Yeah, I like that comment. I thought that was a cool comment. Black bear would look good on heraldry.
But of course, we do need to mention what I think. I mean, it's
The winner,
it's the winner. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's clearly and
the clear winner.
we're not biased at all. But our very own Drew has said again, Mr. Blobby. The motto that he would have on his shield is "Blobby, blobby, blobby, blobby,"
Yes, in Latin.
which I think would be "Blobby, blobby, blobby, blobby."
Yeah, probably.
And for any of you who are unaware of what Mr. Blobby is, I think we've mentioned
We have
what he
mentioned it
is
a couple
on
times.
various episodes. So
Google it.
yeah, it'll be an experience. So
Worst case of acne ever.
that was last week's question. This week's question for you is: what animal do you love that everyone else hates? Because we've talked about wolves, and there is a certain proportion of society that does not like them. So yeah, what is the animal that you love, Aaron, that everyone else hates?
I think wolves is an obvious one because wolves are certainly often in my top 5 and they are widely hated. But I think if you put it in a modern context, because I think the world is slowly,
Yeah,
like snail's pace slow, coming round to the idea of wolves. So I think I am probably going to opt for. I'm going to try and stick somewhat native. So I think I'm going to go down the line of probably adders and brown bears.
okay.
I know brown bears is a bit of a weird one because
No.
people listening are going to say they're not hated. The hate for bears is probably not as loud as something like a snake or a wolf,
Yeah,
but I think it's still pretty palpable. They're seen as either a threat or a pest.
yeah.
And I think there's far more to brown bear. Well, I did a creature feature on brown bears, didn't I? So
I find myself instantly drawn to one of 3 species, 2 of which are birds. The first I'm going to say is rats, brown rats.
yeah,
As a
that's
pet,
good answer. Yeah,
wonderful species. As a wild animal, they can be a pest, and I can see the dislike that some people have from an actual real world point of view. But the other 2 that I find myself almost constantly defending is herring gulls, not
yeah,
seagulls.
good answer.
Herring
Good
gulls,
answer.
because they're so intelligent and they know how to be able to survive,
Mhm.
and also pigeons as well.
Yeah.
2 birds that you will see quite often in town centres, up and down the land, all over the world, and people tend to just.
It's a rat with wings.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But they are 2 incredibly intelligent, 2 incredibly well adapted species that both have made the best of, well, I'd say a bad situation,
Yeah.
being able to live in and around humans. And just because they may not look as pretty in your eyes does not make them any less amazing. So
Yeah.
those are the ones that I'd go with.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
they're good answers. Especially from my opinion, especially rats and seagulls. That's
Yeah.
good answers. Yeah.
So yeah, let us know what your favorite animal that other people dislike is on our Facebook page, or also on our YouTube comments on this video. We've got some YouTube comments, I believe, Aaron.
Yeah. Well, we've got one YouTube comment from Rosalie9961, and they say, I'd normally start off a comment by rehashing this week's question, but one has slipped my mind. So extra long one incoming. For the question of, by the way, we like long comments, so they're nice to get through. For the question of what animal I would like in a Free Wolf Moon style shirt, very applicable to this episode, I'd probably go for the orca. 2 peering their heads out of the water in a spy hop pose to look at the moon, whilst the third is leaping in the background.
Sadly to say, I think that's probably
I can
actually
see
one.
that. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. I say sadly to say because there are some people who take that in the same level of mysticism as the whole wolf moon thing. Yeah.
Can I just jump off on that, and not to drag out what like our side comments too much, but the mysticism aspect, I totally get that if you're a Native American.
Yeah.
If you're Native American, or if you are Norse, or if it like I get that, but you have to know when to put that aside and allow science to take the steering wheel. The mysticism that I find egregious is the stuff that is actively damaging to the
Yes.
wolves.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. On with your comments. Sorry. Where was I? Oh yeah. Also, fun story. I got a capybara version of the Free Wolf Moon
Brilliant.
for my birthday last year. Now on to this week's question of what animal or animals I'd like on my family crest. I would say the okapi and jaguar or leopard. I have one okapi. I'd have one okapi on each of the two top corners holding a branch with flowers in their mouths. And in the center, I'd have a facing forward jaguar leopard head with one side of the face being regular coloring and the other side being black for the melanistic one. But side comment, sorry, I'll try and keep the side comment short. I actually looked into this, and if the big cat's head is side on, so like that,
Oh
it
yeah,
means one
the
thing,
symbology
and if
in
it's facing onwards, yeah, it means something else.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, keeping that short. Also, a nice episode that helped me learn about a bird I've never heard of. Cool. And having hit the start of my bird craze all the way back in the summer of 2020, it's always nice to learn about a new bird. Also, to somewhat join the mild dog pile, I'm going to put out my feelings towards primates. I'm not into them at all. I love all animals and they all do matter, but I've never understood the hype the primates get. I've always interpreted it as the whole, oh, they're like humans, which is why I don't really like them. I'd rather learn and attempt to understand an animal that we can't see ourselves in. For the house size question, I'll give an answer for both ways to interpret the question. For a giant or house-sized animal, I don't know why, but a horse came to mind. Perhaps I was feeling extra Greek when that answer came to my head. My second place answer popped into my mind just before Gareth had said it being a tortoise of some sort, getting the vibe of getting to somewhat see a sauropod or tauraton in real life. Now, for a mini or house-sized animal, my answer isn't too original because an animal like this has already happened and multiple times in Earth's history. I'd like a house-sized elephant. It would be so adorable to look at and have it run around the yard. Plus, it would make an intelligent companion. What a brilliant comment! All round, the whole comment, brilliant. I love the alluding to the Trojan horse.
The future is wild as well.
I love the you agreeing with Gareth on the tortoise. I think after we'd finished recording and the episode had digested, I actually came round to that idea.
You're
I quite like
maximum
that
destruction.
idea. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for sending that comment in. Brilliant as always. Yeah.
Well, that's just one of the ways you can get in contact with us is via our YouTube comments, but you can also send us an email at the nathistorykupboard@gmail.com, where we will try and read that out and get in contact with you as well. So what have we got, Aaron? We've got some this week.
Excuse me, we're actually catching up still from when I was off ill, so apologies on that. Our first email comes to us from Jen Greenhall, one of our beloved Patreon supporters, who says, hello, hope you're all okay. Just sending in a pic of my second screensaver. I don't want to work with that screen on, and I can see why, because there's a lovely image of her screensaver. Moose. It's a moose, yeah, and you can't go wrong with a moose.
No.
So thank you for that one, Jen. So next one comes to us from, and I've swapped to my phone to read it because it's a bit easier. It comes to us from Shane Gowers, or Big Pumba, and he says, hey, cupboard dwellers, Big Pumba here. I hope you're all well. To start off this email with my favourite Mongolian wildlife, I'm going to have to say the Saiga antelope, an Ice Age remnant from days gone by, and I'm a sucker for an ungulate. I feel a genius that needs more love in general. Oh, sorry, a genus that needs more love in general. Their adaptations show how they can make the best of a truly vicious ecosystem and thrive in it. I second this with the I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this properly. Cinereus vulture. Cinereus vulture?
Yeah, Cinereus.
Cinereus vulture, thank you. Though it's a species I just saw when I googled Mongolian steppe wildlife, vultures are rapidly becoming my favourite bird species, and they need help worldwide. Big up the avian garage disposal. You also spoke about
Garbage.
Garbage, yeah.
not garage.
It says garage. Sorry, I read that. Yeah. Big up the avian garbage disposal. Sorry. You also spoke about how we can help in our own ways for our own native wildlife, and so I'll include what I do with a pretty small suburban garden and share some of my results, which are steadily increasing literally day by day. Along with what Gareth and Aaron said about bird feeders, it's reasonably cheap to put some up and see results. We have set up at the moment 2 mixed seed feeders, 1 fat cake cage, 1 hanging water feeder, 1 worm insect only feeder. Continuing with birds for the moment, at first we had 1 or 2 sparrows and wood pigeons turn up. That was about 2 months ago. Now, however, the species list goes blue tit times 6 regulars, collared dove pair, wood pigeons, house sparrows, about 12, starlings, rough estimate 24, 4 magpies minimum, and recently 2 jackdaws in the last few days. We also have a large bird bath for drinker water and a small one hidden in the wildflowers for smaller creatures. How I know I'm contributing to the local ecosystem is, as of yesterday, May 6th, from the kitchen window, I witnessed a male sparrowhawk take one of the house sparrows. As a human, yes, it's sad. However, it outweighs the fact that's how I know what I'm doing is working, as an ecosystem requires predators.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the ultimate compliment, is if you have the predators turning up.
Yeah. In our area, within 10 minutes, there are 3 large fishing ponds and a park with woodland and a lake. So our small 5 by 5 meter garden is acting as a pit stop for all this wildlife. And it's great to witness and know I'm helping. It really benefits my mental health. We have several fruit tree saplings and bush saplings for the invertebrates in the winter, with 2 bug hotels, a small box of nest material as well for birds as they want it. This is a very long email, and I apologize, but it shows how easy it can be. If you build it, they will come. I've attached pictures of our happy little place so others can see. Have a great week. Kind regards, Big Pumba. He was contacted because of what happened with me being ill, and he responded, "Hi, I did see there wasn't an episode, and that's all right. Work on getting whoever is unwell back up and running. Hi." These things take time, so please don't feel pressured to rush a recovery. We can all wait a week or 2 if needed. I also forgot to add to my email that the other night time there are a pair of tawny owls knocking about too, which surprised me in such an urban area. Have a great week, get better soon, and I'll have to go on the back catalogue and find the Old World Vultures episode to keep me sane on site this week. Kindest regards, Big Pumba. Big Pumba, thank you for your well wishes. I am healthy again. And thank you for the 2 emails. They're fantastic. Absolutely loved reading what you've
nice
been
list
doing
of
in your
birds.
garden. Yeah, just brilliant.
Yeah.
And then the final email of this week comes to us from Chris Ackerson. He says, "Hello, gentlemen. I wanted to email you to express my continued support for your excellent podcast.
Thank you.
I've been a bit busy getting married. Yay!"
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations. I did contact him to say as much, but yes, in front of all of our cupboard dwellers, congratulations, Mr. Axon, and your better half. Actually, it's always nice to hear about big moments in the listenership or viewership lives. You are the second person to let us know that you've gotten married, the first one being Dan Luizietti. So we've had 2 cupboard dweller weddings. So yeah, congratulations. That's just awesome news. And thank you for sharing that with us. I hope you listen to our latest episode on your wedding day.
You've probably got better things to be doing.
Yeah, I just kid. So I'm catching up. To answer the question noted in your show's email section of the past episode about if I worked with melanosomes. Oh yeah, sadly, no, I do not work in paleontology or related fields. I'm a geographer by trade at the moment. I have many interests and hobbies, but I would not deign to call myself an expert. In any case, like yourselves, the fellow fans and many others, I have a love of natural history, nature and science. I wanted to answer a question you sent a while back. You asked, what would you add a horn or tusk to and why? I don't recall the episode number. I think I would add a horn to a European rat or brown rat, Rattus norvegicus.
I like the look of that.
But to have some fun with it, I also thought about Big Pumba's question about what animal would move up the food chain if humans disappeared. So I give you the sparky tusk death rat
Oh
or
my God.
Ratistentus infectorum. Let me give you some details. So there's another person in speculative evolution
Yeah,
chose a
yeah.
rat, team rat. It would have a self-sharpening tusk, females and males. Much like the teeth, the tusk attached to the skull would require the rat to actively use the tusk to maintain its edge. In addition, I would like to give the rat the electrical potential similar to an electric eel.
This is sounding very Pokemon-esque,
Wow, it
actually.
is, yeah. I would give the rat a resistance to electrical shock with some kind of skeletal Faraday cage. I've I've not worked out how that could be accomplished yet. I would give male rats the ability that Schultzy water boatmen use. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah.
I believe it's called stridulation.
Yes.
I would give it the intelligence of a chimpanzee,
Oh my
the
God.
resistance to radiation of a tardigrade, the lifespan of a bristlecone pine tree. In addition, excuse me. In addition, I would give it the ability to change sex, like the dinosaurs, or read genetically engineered monsters from Jurassic Park. I'm assuming it was created in a lab, escaped, and then
wiped out
not
humanity.
too much later, mysteriously the human race
Yeah.
disappeared. Just a bit of fun. P.S. Not natural history related, but as a diehard Tolkien fan, oh, sorry if you listen to this episode, I am a Tolkien fan. He's my favorite author, but he does deserve a little bit of a scathing because of the wolves. Anyway, not a natural history related, but as a diehard Tolkien fan, I wanted to state a very controversial statement. Despite its flaws, I know where you're going with this, and I agree with you. Despite its flaws, Rings of Power is a good production of the canon, and the version of Sauron presented is the best version on film. This is so for the simple fact that we see the inner world of his mind, which we do not see in any other film version of the material. I suspect I've made a few enemies for life. Really, really, my respects to you and regards. And Namari, and I will respond with Me Gavanan Melin, or in your case Melon. Yeah, so very cool. Very
enough.
cool. So yeah, that is our emails for this week. We burnt through them quickly. We had to because we're behind.
Yeah, well, I think that's fair enough.
And that wolf creature feature was long.
But good. So one other way that you can get in contact with us is by becoming one of our fantastic Patreons as well, which we'll now tell you about.
Every week, we like to give a little love back by shouting out the names of our wonderful Patreon supporters.
That's right. These are the cupboard dwellers who are kind enough to support us through a monetary contribution, for which we are eternally grateful and grateful beyond words.
And those people are, of course, Fogtober, Jen Greenhall, Connie P, Chelsea McKee, Nick to Nick,
Owen Cox,
and Matt Geddy.
Guys, your financial contributions are actively helping us out here in the Natural History Cupboard in a myriad of ways, including developing our new studio, planning excursions and being able to go out and film on location, considering technical upgrades and actually making the jump from a solely audio-based podcast to the now growing YouTube channel. And we really can't thank you enough for that.
Now, we appreciate all of our cupboard dwellers and the support you offer us through listening, liking, sharing, and subscribing. But if you feel we've earned it and you're considering joining our Patreon, there are two options through which you can do so.
That's the Nature Nerds and the Animal Ambassador tiers, which you can find on the Patreon website or links through our social media as well, and each one having different benefits for you to enjoy.
And now back to Gareth and Erin in the studio.
So yeah, big thank you to our Patreons there.
Mm-hmm.
Without you guys, we couldn't do what we do. And also, just to mention as well, if you are interested in trying to find any of our wonderful T-shirts and or merch, head to our Teemill store where you can find that, and you too could look as funky as these shirts.
Yeah, and there'll be a grey wolf one added now too. So.
So yes, well, that pretty much brings us to the end of this week's episode. So really good creature feature there, Aaron. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you to our listeners. Thank you to you. And since we mentioned about the T-shirts, a big thank you again to Drew. I know we say it a lot, but thank you, Drew, for all the artwork that you do.
Yeah. And hopefully Simon Reeves was was worth missing out
Was
on
worth
the wolf
missing
thing.
the wolf, worshipping the wolf and bashing everybody else.
Yeah. And well, that pretty much just brings us to the end of this week's episode. So a big thank you to all of you for joining us, and we'll see you next time here in the Natural History Cupboard. Bye.
Bye. So Gav, awful joke.
It was never going to be a good one.
It
Yeah.
was never going to be a good one. I got two, okay?
Okay.
And I thought one was more universal, the other one's more for our friends across the pond, since I ignored your American wolf for the most part. So for the guys across the pond, what do you call a wolf who is employed as a lumberjack?
Is it a timber wolf?
It's a timber wolf. Okay. What did they call the cow that kept crying wolf?
I don't know.
Fake moves.